Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and today we are going to be going over the books that I have chosen to read throughout the year for a year in Aeldia. This, of course, is part of the Orilium world that is put on by G at Book Roast. Of course, channel will be linked down below. I think pretty much most of us know what this is, but I did not participate last year because I joined for the first time creating my character in April. I did like the novice path then, and then I officially joined for the autumn equinox, and so I didn't do a year in Aeldia last year, but I'm excited to participate this year. So I have chosen all the books I want to read for the different prompts. I've chosen my path, so I'm going to start here at 1B and then work my way through down to Dark Meadow. And yeah, I am excited for this. So of course I've already read a couple books. So January was pretty easy. You just kind of chose where you were going to start, but the prompt for everybody was a book published in 2024. And my family and I had actually read this book, and that is The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monika Kim. So this was my choice for a book published in 2024. I don't remember the exact date it was published, but it was definitely in 2024. So that was easy because I had already read it and it worked for the prompt. So basically this one, you have our main character, I forget her name, but she starts fixating. Her dad leaves, her mom hooks up with this very racist white man, and she starts fixating on his eyes, and then it turns into kind of how she devolves into a serial killer. Very, very interesting book. I gave it 3 stars, but it definitely has stuck with me. I've talked to my family that I read it with. This is stuck with them as well. And it's very, very interesting. So that was January's pick. I also already read February, and for that one, I went to 2B West, which is basically, let's see here, a book from the middle left side of the shelf. And this one was actually on my TBR cart, and it was kind of in the back row, which is the middle between the front of the TBR cart and the shelf that's right behind it. And so I counted that as the middle, and it was on the left side. So that's Legendborn by Tracy, Deonn. This one I ended up giving 4 stars. I didn't love like the first 150 pages. I thought it got really bogged down with like over explanations of the magic and the hierarchy and everything. So this is based on King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. So basically you have Bree, and she goes to this early college program, and she witnesses something, and somebody tries to take her memories, but it kind of backfires, and then she has another memory unlocked that has to deal with her mother's death. And so she decides, she's going to try to figure out who these people are and get in there so she can find out what actually happened to her mother. And so you have the secret society, and a bunch of them are Legendborn, and they're descendants of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And then there's other, people that are part of the society as well. And then you have, her main love interest, and you also have Selwyn, who is kind of sort of a love triangle type situation that might be brewing. I don't know. And yeah, I just had a really great time once we got through that first chunk where it was just over explaining everything, and really got into the story. I absolutely loved it. There's a lot of social commentary as far as race and historical aspects and whatnot. And I cannot wait to read the next book. Obviously it's March, the 3rd book is coming out, but I definitely need to read the 2nd book first, and so I'll be picking that up, especially where this left off, like it's a little bit of a cliffhanger, and so I can't wait to continue on the series, but this counted for that prompt. So January and February are done. For March, I went from 2B to 3B, and it was To Enjoy Solitude, Book from Your Own Priority TBR. And for this one, I did actually do a priority TBR this year, and this was one of the ones that was already on my March TBR. I decided to go with this one because it's one, I have another one that's from my priority TBR that's already on my March list, but it's a newer release or a newer purchase, where this one, I bought it when it first came out and it's just been sitting there, so it's definitely a priority, but it's also a chunky one. That's A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. This is a prequel kind of companion to A Priory of the Orange Tree. But I loved Priory. I've read that one twice, and it's beyond time I get to this one. And it's definitely a priority, so I decided to go ahead and slot that for that prompt. Then I went on to 4B, which is Find Winter Cloak. And this is a book by an author with a W in their name. And so this will be for April. And I decided to go with a second book in a series, and that's The Archive of the Forgotten by A.J. Hackwith. So W there with. And this one is book 2 in the Hell's Library series. And I read book 1 in February and absolutely love it. Didn't quite get a 5 stars, but it was close. And I immediately picked up the next 2. I actually got these on Pango from Bree at Four Paws in a Book. So it's like, oh, cool. I follow that YouTube channel, and now I'm using her Pango. But yeah, I got this one and the third book in the series because I absolutely love the first book, and I know I want to continue on. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I don't think I'm going to get to it March. W in the name. That will work for April. So I'll be reading that one in April. Then we have, let's see here, 5B, and then it's Enter Cave, Read a Dystopia. And so for this one, I kind of looked, I had some options, but I decided to go with this one because I'm definitely interested in trying this author, and that is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. So yeah, I'm excited, kind of nervous. Like, I'm excited for it. I wanted to try this author, but it does deal with like pandemic, and I've read a couple books now, and that hasn't been my favorite thing. So we'll see how this is done. It is pretty short, and I do want to read it. So it says, let's see here, I didn't tell you what this one was about. I didn't tell you those two. So basically, A Day of Fallen Night, it takes, I think, I don't even know how many years prior to Priory. But basically, we're back in this world, and you have the East and the West. And it says, Tanuva Milam is a sister of the Priory. For 50 years, she is trained to slay worms, but none have appeared since the Nameless One, and the younger generation is starting to question the Priory's purpose. To the north, in the Queendom of Innis, Sabran the Ambitious has married the new king of Hroth, narrowly saving both realms from ruin. Their daughter, Glorian, trails in their shadow exactly where she wants to be. The dragons of the east have slept for centuries. Dumai has spent her life in the Sikanese mountain temple, trying to wake the gods from their long slumber. Now someone from her mother's past is coming to upend her fate. When the dread mount erupts, bringing with it an age of terror and violence, these women must find the strength to protect humankind from a devastating threat. So that's what that one's about. And then in this one, basically all the unwritten books go to this library in hell, and you have Claire, who's the head librarian. And in the first book, the books kind of have a life of their own, and this book gets restless and ends up going out into the world as one of its characters. And so Claire goes to track it down and gets confronted by these angels who think she's looking for this codex. And so then she goes on this quest with a bunch of other characters to try to find this codex and get it before the angels do. A lot of fun. I absolutely love the book, like I said, and I can't wait to continue on and see where it's going to go from here. And then this one, back to this one now, says the night Arthur Leander has a heart attack on stage during a production of King Lear is also the night when a devastating flu pandemic arrives in the city, and within weeks, civilization as we know it comes to an end. 20 years later, Kristen Raymond moves between the settlements of the altered world with a small troupe of actors and musicians. They call themselves the Traveling Symphony, and they have dedicated themselves to keeping the remnants of art and humanity alive. But when they arrive in St. Deborah by the water, they encounter a violent prophet who will threaten the tiny band's existence. And as the story takes off, moving back and forth in time and vividly depicting life before and after the pandemic, the strange twist of fate that connects them all will be revealed. So, we'll see how I get along with that one. Then in June, I went to 6B, and it's to solve traps, read a mystery book. And for this one, I recently hauled this one, and when I saw that, I was like, this is a book that popped into mind. I have a ton of options, but this is what popped into mind, and it's How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin. I think I saw this one on YouTube a couple times, and thought it sounded interesting. So it says Frances Adams always said she'd be murdered. She was right. It's 1965 and teenage Frances Adams is at an English country fair with her two best friends. But Frances's life takes a hairpin turn when a fortune teller makes a bone-chilling prediction. One day, Frances will be murdered. Frances spends a lifetime trying to solve a crime that hasn't happened yet, compiling dirt on every person who crosses her path in an effort to prevent her own demise. For decades, no one takes Frances seriously until that is nearly 60 years later when Frances is found murdered. In the present day, Annie Adams has been summoned to a meeting at the sprawling country estate of her wealthy and reclusive great-aunt Frances. But by the time Annie arrives in the quaint English village of Castle Knoll, Frances is already dead. Annie is determined to catch the killer, but thanks to Frances's lifelong habit of digging up secrets, it seems every endearing and eccentric villager might just have a motive for her murder. Can Annie safely unravel the dark mystery at the heart of Castle Knoll, or will dredging up the past throw her into the path of a killer? As Annie gets closer to the truth and closer to the danger, she starts to fear she might inherit her great aunt's fate instead of her fortune. So it sounds like a fun one. This type of mystery isn't typically my thing, but I'm hoping I will enjoy this one. Then let's see here. In July, we went to 7B, which read whilst on watch. And this is to read this book entirely in the PM hours. I thought about waiting and just seeing kind of where I'm at in July, but I was kind of looking at my priority TBR for the year, and I think this one would be a good one to read entirely at night. And so I'm going to go with Nosferatu by Joe Hill. I might swap this out depending on where the year leads me, but as of right now, I'm going to probably hold off on this one until July and then just read it each night because it is creepy and I think it'll be a good one to read at night. So this one says, Victoria McQueen has an uncanny knack for finding things: a misplaced bracelet, a missing photograph, answers to unanswerable questions. When she rides her bike over the rickety old covered bridge in the woods near her house, she always emerges in the places she needs to be. Charles Talent Manx has a gift of his own. He likes to take children for rides in his 1938 Rolls-Royce Wraith with the vanity plate Nosferatu. In the Wraith, he and his innocent guests can slip out of the everyday world and onto hidden roads that lead to an astonishing playground of museums he calls playground of amusements, he calls Christmasland. The journey across the highway of Charlie's twisted imagination transforms his precious passengers, leaving them as terrified and unstoppable as their benefactor. Then comes the day when Vic goes looking for trouble and finds her way to Charlie. That was a lifetime ago. Now the only kid ever to escape Charlie's evil is all grown up and desperate to forget. But Charles Manx hasn't stopped thinking about Victoria McQueen. On the road again, he won't slow down until he's taken his revenge. He's after something very special, something Vic can never replace. As a life and death battle Wills builds, Vic McQueen prepares to destroy Charlie once and for all, or die trying. So I'm excited about this. My sister has read this, loved it. And yeah, I can't wait to read it. So that will be for July. Then in August, I went to 8B, and it says, use true light. Read a book with a word light in the title. I just recently picked this one up, and I was like, yay, I have the perfect book. And that's All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. And yeah, obviously has light in the title. So it says Marie Laurie lives with her father in Paris near the Museum of Natural History, where he works as the master of its thousands of locks. When she is 6, Marie goes blind, and her father builds a perfect miniature of their neighborhood so she can memorize it by touch and navigate her way home. When she is 12, the Nazis occupy Paris, and father and daughter flee to the walled citadel of St. Malo, where Marie's reclusive great uncle lives. I'm having a heck of a time. Great uncle lives in a tall house by the sea. With them, they carry what might be the museum's most valuable and dangerous jewel. In a mining town in Germany, the orphan Werner grows up with his younger sister, enchanted by a crude radio they find. Werner becomes an expert at building and fixing these crucial new instruments, a talent that wins him a place at the brutal academy for Hitler Youth. Then a special assignment to track the resistance, more and more aware of the human cost of his intelligence, Werner travels through the heart of the war and finally into St. Malo, where his story and Marie's converge. Doerr's stunning sense of physical detail and gorgeous metaphors are dazzling, deftly interweaving the lives of Marie and Werner. He illuminates the ways against all odds people try to be good to one another. 10 years in the writing, All the Light We Cannot See is a magnificent, deeply moving novel from a writer whose sentences never fail to thrill. So, I'm excited to finally give this a try. I've heard, people talk about it. And yeah, that will work for the light prompt. So there's that one. Then let's see here, in September I go to 9B, which is Inspect Frost. Read a book with a light blue cover. For this one, I'm going to be reading The Night Sister by Jennifer McMahon. And I found a couple. I found The Winter People and My Darling Girl by this author at thrift stores, and I picked them all up. Haven't read anything by her yet. Probably won't get to them anytime soon because they're lower priority. And so when I saw this one has a light blue cover, I was like, perfect. It'll give me a chance to read that author. And so this one, it says, the Tower Motel was once a thriving attraction of rural Vermont. Today it lies in disrepair, alive only in the memory of the 3 women, Amy, Piper, and Piper's kid sister, Margot, who played there as children. They loved exploring the abandoned rooms until the day their innocent games uncovered something dark and twisted that ruined their friendship forever. Now Amy stands accused of committing a horrific crime, and the only hint as to her motives is a hasty message that forces Piper and Margot to visit the motel's past and the fate of 2 sisters who lived there in its heyday. Sylvie Slater had dreams of running off to Hollywood and becoming Alfred Hitchcock's leading lady, while her little sister Rose was content with their simple life. Each believed the other to be something truly monstrous. Only one knows the secret that will haunt the generations to come. So that is my pick for that one. Then we went to 10B, which is Meet Entry Wardens. Read a debut novel. And so I, Googled it. And this book came up. And this is another one I found at a thrift store. And it's just been sitting there. It's very short. So I was like, perfect. Especially because well, I was going to say September is my birthday month and I want easy books, but that was the other one, which that one should be easy anyway. But this is for October, and that is We the Animals by Justin Torres. And it says, in this groundbreaking debut, Justin Torres plunges us into the chaotic heart of one family, the intense bonds of 3 brothers, and the mythic effects of this fierce love on the people we must become. It doesn't have like an actual synopsis though, so we the animal snatches the reader by the scruff of the heart, tight as teeth, and shakes back and forth between the human and the animal, the housed and the feral, love and violence, mercy and wrath, and leaves them in the wilderness, ravished by its beauty. So I'm not entirely sure what it's about, other than it sounds like it's about three brothers. Because there's not an actual synopsis. But like I said, I did find it at a thrift store and it just caught my eye. And it is really short, so that'll be perfect. Then for November, it says I now go to 11E, so I kind of got off the B track, takes a side jaunt to 11E, and says name drop someone to gain entry. Try a book by a popular author you've not tried yet. And for this one, I'm going to go with Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I have this one and Mexican Gothic, and I haven't read either one. This one I actually have the audiobook for, and I've wanted to read it for a while. I do want to read Mexican Gothic as well, but this author is very popular, and I've never tried anything by them. But I decided to go with this one since I have the audio and the physical. It'll be a little bit easier, I think, to get to. And it says a young woman and a Mayan death god embark on a life-changing journey in this one-of-a-kind fairy tale inspired by Mexican folklore. The Jazz Age is a time of daring dances and fast music, but not for Cassiopeia Tun. She is stuck in her dusty small town performing menial chores until the day when she opens a curious wooden box and accidentally frees an imprisoned deity. In the company of the strangely alluring god, armed with only her wits, Cassiopeia begins an adventure replete with malicious ghosts, shape-changing sorcerers, and powerful magic. Her cross-country odyssey will take her from the jungles of Yucatan to the bright lights of Mexico City and deep into the darkness of the Mayan underworld. So I think I'm going to love this one. I love folklore from different parts of the world. That's definitely like a buzzword for me. Like I absolutely love anything dealing with folklore, especially if it's not the more popular common ones. And so yeah, I'm excited to get to that one. And then lastly, we go back to B, so we go to 12B, and it's Enter the City of Dark Meadow, and it says to read your most anticipated book you have not gotten to yet. And so I was kind of looking at my priority list, but those ones aren't necessarily like most anticipated. They're just ones that I kind of keep overlooking or whatnot. Whereas this book, like, I do keep overlooking, but I keep looking at it, and then I'm like, no, I don't want to read it right now. It was on a TBR at one point, and I didn't get to it, and that's Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I just think I'm really going to love this one. And it's one of those things, like, I don't want the first time reading it to be over. Like, and I may not like it. I don't know. But that's kind of where, like, I'm kind of like, I think I'm going to love it, and I don't want that first time feeling to be over once I read it, essentially. So just keep sitting there waiting. But it's time. So it says, I wanted to lose myself in the small town of Pelion, Maine, to forget everything I had left behind, the sound of rain, the blood, the coldness of a gun against my skin. For 6 months, each breath has been a reminder that I survived and my dad didn't. I'm almost safe again, but the moment I meet Archer Hill, my entire world tilts on its axis and never rights itself again. Until I trespass into a strange, silent, and isolated world, Archer communicates with no one. Yet in his whiskey-colored eyes, something intangible happens between us. There's so much more to him than just his beauty, his presence, or the way his hands communicate with me, on me. But this town is mired in secrets and betrayals, and Archer is the explosive center of it all. So much passion and so much hurt. But it's in Archer's silence that we might just find what we need to heal and to live. So I think I'm going to love this. I hope I do. And so that's going to be my pick for an anticipated read that I just keep putting off and haven't gotten to yet. So those are all the books for Aeldia. if you're participating, I would love to know a book you're looking forward to reading. If you've chosen books, if you've read any of these, I'd love to know that down in the comments below, or if you're interested in any of these. Otherwise, if you just want to let me know you are here and you're supporting the channel by commenting, you can always leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji. I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.